get familiar with the client on a very personal level, and we figure out how they like to live, what they need for their spaces to be like. That's the value that we bring to the table, that it's an expertise and the eye that we have developed over the course of 30 years. We build on relationships with our clients. We bring a sense of adventure and discovery to them each and every time. We try not to repeat anything. If a client likes what we've done and they come to us specifically because they want a replica of that room, I'll say, I cannot duplicate that because that belongs to so-and-so. We can give you something that's comparable in feeling and quality and maybe the same color scheme, but it will not be a replica of anybody else's work.
Jose, so why don't you just introduce yourself? I'll introduce you and we'll go from there, and it's really just a casual conversation.
Perfect. I'm José Carlino, and my company is José Carlino Design. And I've worked in the business for 35 years with extensive business in high-end residential design in New York.
Okay.
And in Milwaukee for the last 12 years.
And has your studio always been downtown, or it's been elsewhere as well?
The studio here in Milwaukee has been downtown always.
Okay.
And in New York, I worked for some of the top design firms in the country there.
And tell me a little bit about the difference between moving from a huge city to a small, sleepy city like Milwaukee.
Well, it was a nice change, especially with the downturn in the economy in New York in 2008 when that happened. It was a nice change to have an easier, more comfortable way of life. Projects are different, clients are nicer, people pay on time, they don't question everything like in the big cities. It's a little bit more competitive in New York,
Sure.
as you can imagine. Here it's not. And it's a comfortable pace of life and very lovely to work here.
Do you find that moving from New York, where it's a fashion center, to moving to Milwaukee, that you're fighting against A, budgetary restraints more so, and B, design build as a concept that's been marketed to clients a lot?
Most definitely. In New York, interior design is an industry that's respected. It's a profession, and people seek out interior designers. Here in Milwaukee, it's a little bit more loose, and people work with design build. They are not familiar with the process with working with an architect, contractor, and a designer. Whereas on the East Coast, they're a little bit more savvy, more competitive in their approach to designing. They're also doing multiple houses generally.
Sure.
Here, it's maybe if you're lucky if you get a whole house.
Yep.
Sometimes we do a couple of rooms at a time. We've done a whole house once in a while, but very rarely. We have more of that on the East Coast and the West Coast.
So your practice here, what is the smallest size project you will do locally?
I don't really have a limitation. If I like the clients or the people that we're going to work with, and I like the project, I'll do it. It doesn't matter how small.
Okay. And you're providing only soft goods, or are you doing construction as well?
We don't do construction, but we do consult on the construction and picking out materials, building materials, hardscapes, and then soft materials as well.
And are you doing the interior layouts and drafting, or just providing selections?
Providing selections and directing a draftsman or an architect to how we would like to see the project develop.
So you'll provide an interior finish schedule and then it's added on to the architect's team.
Exactly, that's right.
And your clients usually find you through an architect, or directly that they know that they want to work with you?
I've been very lucky to have great clients that refer me to their friends and other people, and they see my work, and we've had continued success with our clients referring us.
That's great.
And architects as well. And then a friend of mine who's a real estate developer and broker, he also refers business.
That's great. So can you talk to us about go back to the importance of establishing the team at the beginning of the project, the architect, the interior designer, and the builder, and how that impacts the outcome of the job?
The outcome of the job is much greater when you have a team that's focused on the project from the get-go, because everybody brings a different viewpoint, and to make it work, that synergy is invaluable. If clients come to us and they've worked with an architect for over a year or two, and they've made decisions that maybe don't work best for them for how they live, Architects oftentimes tend to be a bit more egocentric and they want it to look a certain way, but some architects don't have a lot of regard how a house functions or a space functions to live in. They're more interested in what it looks like at the end. But with an interior designer, we get familiar with the client on a very personal level, and we figure out how they like to live, what they need for their spaces to be like. And we work well with architects and contractors to make that a reality.
So talk to me a little bit about your team and what a client can expect when they starting when they call the first time. What should they expect the process is, and walk me through how it works with your firm.
Yeah, we usually interview and meet the clients, or prospective clients, at the job site or in their existing homes, or sometimes in our office. The team is usually me, my associate Janet, and then the rest of the team in the office. We work on all the projects together.
Okay.
But when a client hires me, they get me, not an assistant designer.
So it's 100% driven by you, and then you're supported by your staff.
Supported by the staff.
And then are you billing an hourly rate, or is it by the job, or how should a client expect the proposal be presented?
It's a design fee based on the scope of the project and the size, and then a percentage markup on net pricing.
Sure.
For soft goods and all furnishings, and then a different percentage for hard goods, which is part of the architecture that stays with the building.
Sure. And are you involved in designing the casework as well on these projects?
I oversee it, and I don't design it because I don't draw.
Sure.
But we work with architects and contractors and draftspeople as needed to design what should be appropriate for the space.
So consulting on millwork and casework and then software,
but not drawing it, not designing it ourselves.
Okay, that's very reasonable. So back to the beginning, what inspired you to pick this field? How did you get here?
In a very circuitous
I want the origin story.
The origin story, I started in banking in New York.
Okay.
After college, I had an art gallery in Miami, and then I decided to move back to New York for a little bit of sanity. I moved to Miami in the 80s to go to school there.
Must have been wild.
Crazy wild. It saved my life to move back to New York to get out of that.
Not for many people say it saved my life to move to New York in the 80s.
It did.
Only from Miami does it.
From Miami.
Can you say that?
Yeah. So New York was also wild in the 80s, and I survived that as well. My days at Studio 54 are very vivid, and that inflects on some of the work I do too. But I was in banking, then public relations. Then I went to work for an antique business. It was owned by two interior designers, and I ran the antiques business and really increased their sales in a short period of time, working and selling to other designers and architects and clients. And then I got a job with a big design firm in New York, and I got my start there as an apprentice. And I worked for a big firm called Juan Pablo Molyneux. In the 80s and 90s, we were buying very expensive things, and I was in charge of all the purchasing of antiques, selecting all antiques, antique rugs and accessories, lamps and art and all that. And my colleague was working with fabrics. Then after that, I went to work for a company called Bunny Williams, big designer in New York, especially nowadays, very popular and well-known. And she introduced me to a whole nother level of decorating. She had started at Parrish Hadley, one of the premier design firms in New York that did the White House for Jackie Kennedy and big names in New York society. Through them, I learned all the basis of interior design. Then I went to work for David Easton, an architect, designer, who had big projects as well. And that was construction and building and designing with an architectural team and staff. I was involved in all aspects of the projects.
So do you think that's where you learned that architects more focused on the fenestration and less focused on the interior of the project and how it lived?
That's exactly right.
So you came from Bunny Williams where it was all about the interiors.
All about decorating the interiors and also selecting the selections for all the cabinetry and designing all the interiors as well. But David Easton's office was more architectural focused.
Sure.
But with a residential bent.
Yeah. So when you were selecting antiques, just because I'm interested in this, where were you sourcing this stuff? Did you get to go on spectacular trips, or were you buying at auction?
At auction, a lot at auction in New York. Also, we went to London quite a bit and to Paris, shopping very fine antique stores. Because at that level, we were buying very, very, very high quality expensive antiques. So I honed my skill from selling decorative antiques in the antique business to really buying extraordinary furniture for Juan Pablo Molyneux.
For your clients now, are you still sourcing things at auction and around the world, or are you mostly having things done through workshops at the Mart in Chicago?
No, I do. I source mostly online nowadays, but especially with dealers that I've worked with in the past because we have a history together.
Sure.
And I understand their quality and they know me, and there's a synergy there. But working with unknown dealers online is a little bit precarious. If we purchase anything online, sight unseen, we have to inspect it with the right to return it if we don't like it, if we don't approve it.
So you're shipping everything to a receiver. You're not holding inventory. You don't have a collection.
I don't have
of
a collection of antiques that I'm
There's
holding.
no atelier. You
No.
got somewhere else.
No.
Okay. So you're buying for the project.
I'm buying for the project. And, yeah, exactly.
Your team inspects it, and then it's installed under your supervision.
That's exactly right.
Okay. And how important do you think it is, that inspection process and the installation with your team? Do you think that you're adding value there, or is that part of your?
Oh, no question about it. That's the value that we bring to the table. That it's an expertise and the eye that we have developed over the course of 30 years of something that looks good. Even if there's a blemish on it, we know how to have it restored. Where some people might restore something within an inch of perfection, we like to have a patina, which is what is the beauty of things with age, that has some
Authenticity.
Authenticity to it. Thank you.
Sure. So if you're sourcing online, you're not buying at auction anymore because it's too risky for a client?
It's risky, and sometimes clients aren't ready to make that decision right away.
It's fun, though.
It is fun. I like buying at auction.
Yeah.
And we do it occasionally. We have a client that is very attuned to the auctions, but he likes to buy it himself.
Yeah, sure.
And then we just charge a design fee on that.
Sure, just
if we
a
consult.
consulting fee.
A consulting fee.
And that's such an incredible opportunity to go to auction houses. I think it's sort of lost on people in Milwaukee, but we have some great auction houses even in Chicago.
In Chicago, Hyman is
we
great.
have, for modern furniture, we have Wright, which was just bought by them in
Right.
Chicago. And that was bought by Rego in New Jersey. So I collect Nakashima's work, and we have access to that stuff now in Chicago,
which is amazing. That's
historically didn't
fantastic.
do. Yeah. So also you mentioned rugs. Rugs are, not having a moment anymore. They're sort of passé.
They're
for many
passé
people
for the moment.
For the moment. I've decorated my house. I think I have 40 rugs. I just couldn't stop buying.
Yeah.
And to think that someone spends a year or more of their life knotting this rug by hand, and you can now buy it for next to nothing. Do you think rugs are coming back?
They will eventually come back because they're actually artwork
Yeah.
that was created and to live with and use and let age. And
Is that how the entire, primitives are no longer in style either, but throughout your design career, have you seen that ebb and flow?
I've seen ebb and flow, but not as drastic as it has been in the last 10 years, where it's really gone from a very traditional and sort of European flair to interior design to a much more contemporary, fresh, modern approach to things. Still using classical forms and designs, but with a different approach, a fresh eye.
With the big box stores having so much market share for the general public, forming design through HGTV or one of these
I think
other
that's
horrible
developed a lot of how design is being informed nowadays.
Do your clients usually come to you with that strong opinion, or do your clients usually have good taste, I guess is the question, or do you have to help them elevate beyond, if it's in Target, we don't want to deal with it usually.
Right. I don't deal, that's when I draw the line.
For us,
won't-
if it's in Home Depot, we don't
Yeah.
want it. For you, if
Right.
it's in Target.
Right, exactly.
Mid-century had a moment, people were buying up every piece of crap there was crap. People didn't realize there was crap in the 50s and 60s.
There was crap in the 50s and 60s and in the
just because
18th
it's from the
century
50s
as
and
well.
60s doesn't mean that it's
It's
great.
great.
There was
Right.
bad furniture then, and it's still bad.
Right, exactly.
But that's some of the struggle we have. That if it's in Home Depot, we don't want to ever come back and do the same room again because we've failed at making it timeless, which is we say we create heirloom quality spaces, and we're just builders.
Well, that's what we're very proud of as well. And that's why I liked working with you guys, because you're builders, but you build with quality and quality in mind. We like to design with quality and timelessness so that it's not the best business formula for myself, but it's better for the clients.
Yes.
Because you give them value for what you're offering. And I've walked into houses that I did 20 years ago with clients, and it still looks fresh. And the client says, I want to do something, but there's nothing to redo.
Yeah. The only thing that we ever had to redo is when we first started, there was a 4:3 aspect ratio for TVs, and now they stretched out to 16:9.
Right.
So that custom casework had to be adjusted, or we had to move the television. But other than that, we try to build 100-year homes if people's budget allow for it, because we want the spaces to feel great.
That's why we've worked so well together. And in the time that we've worked together on a small project, I look forward to doing more projects with you for that
I think
reason.
it turned out great.
Yeah.
And I think the customer was really happy.
I think the customer's super happy, and that's what ultimately what makes our day.
Back to your design style, do people hire you for your brand and it's informed by the space, or do you flex to other people's style?
Well, that's interesting because a lot of designers, they have a brand and a formula, and I think that's great, and that works really well for people. It doesn't work well for me because I like to do something unique each and every time. So I flex to what's appropriate for the clients, for the space, for how they want to use it, where they live, climate, location, whatever. We do what's appropriate for them at that time, but with the long term in mind.
When you're talking about Milwaukee in particular, how much do you have to push clients to get a spectacular product?
I have to push a little bit more than I do elsewhere.
So would you say on most projects, people just need a little bit extra?
They need a little extra push to educate them for something that they don't really know.
Yeah.
They're not exposed to it. They don't have the breadth of diversity that they do on the East Coast or the West Coast of antique shops and auction houses and fabric houses and retail shops that have all sorts of things.
Do you think throughout your career in Milwaukee, people have become more cosmopolitan in Milwaukee, or do you think that these television shows and like I said, big box stores have things have regressed and people have, it's more of a group think now?
It's sort of a double-edged sword because I feel like they've become more cosmopolitan, more sophisticated in a way, but the big box stores and the HGTV and all those have glamorized decorating, but at the lowest level, basically. And it's unrealistic what they show on TV, as you know.
Sure.
It can't
The whole
be
project
done.
is the
The
price
whole
of a
project's
sofa.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't win them all. Tell me what makes José Carlino Design different than some of the other interior shops in our metro area?
I'm not really that familiar with some of the other areas in other designers and how they operate here. But I'll tell you what makes us very unique is that we build on relationships with our clients. We've been doing generational work for several generations of the same family. We've done 10, 20 projects with the same person. We've done work for the same clients over the last 30 years or so. And we bring a sense of adventure and discovery to them each and every time, that they love working with us and refer us highly to other friends of theirs and other people.
So you'll do their primary residence, you'll do
A vacation house.
vacation home, a ski home,
Somebody else, and then the
pied-à-terre
children's house.
That's really why you're talking about the difference between Milwaukee and other places. Here, someone will have maybe a home in the suburbs or a condo downtown, and then maybe they'll have a lake home in Shaniqua or in Lake Geneva, and then potentially a pied-à-terre maybe in Chicago or New York. But
possibly, but
past
other than that, that's about it. Exactly.
So our repeat business as builders is another room, or they upgrade to the next house.
The next house.
So,
you
we don't, or we'll do their kid's house, but we don't get the opportunity to work with people as many times as you do. But I think that's incredible that you get that sort of relationship.
It is absolutely incredible because it builds on trust, and that trust develops with time and projects, and it just speaks highly that the clients keep coming back for the same.
Not only that, there's not that introductory period, because in any transaction, this is a business.
It's a business.
People are leery of other people regardless of how nice you are.
That's right.
So it takes some time to build that relationship.
And to cultivate that and to have that trust between us.
and just to people know how each other work as far as their process.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's an incredible differentiator. And hopefully people in Milwaukee start buying more houses.
We have, with some of our Milwaukee clients, done multiple homes.
They'll have one in Naples, maybe.
Maybe in Florida,
Yeah.
up north, Door County, wherever.
Since many of your clients are referral, if you have a client that says, I love this other person's space, can you create something similar in mine? How does that conversation go, since everything you do is bespoke?
Everything we do is bespoke is correct. And we try not to repeat anything. If a client likes what we've done and they come to us specifically because they want a replica of that room, I'll say, I cannot duplicate that because that belongs to so-and-so. We can give you something that's comparable in feeling and quality and maybe the same color scheme, but it will not be a replica of anybody else's work, because what we do is unique and bespoke, and I can't copy somebody else's work that they've paid for.
How do most of your clients find you?
That's an interesting question, because I constantly struggle with the fact, should I be marketing myself? Should I be more present on social media? Should I do show houses? Should I be published in magazines? But we've been very fortunate enough, because we have such great, strong relationships with clients and their families, that it's all been word of mouth and referral. And a strong referral is as good as gold. It gets us the best clients, and it gives us relationships that last a long time.
And you're working with families throughout generations and multiple homes?
That's exactly right. Multiple homes, generational. We do children's houses, and we've done even the grandchildren of one of my clients.
Do you find that the parents are involved ever? Because we have a client now where the parent may or may not be paying for it, but they are very heavily involved because they've used us on a past project, and they want to experience the remodel again.
Well, that's funny, because we have had both scenario where the client's not involved at all with their offspring's projects, and others where it was a young college-age daughter.
Sure.
And the client, we just finished their project, and they wanted us to freshen her new apartment, and they were very involved in the decision making.
We have clients who just love
And they love the
experience.
process and the experience,
They just
exactly.
like doing it. I mean, I love buying things too, so
Yeah.
I'd buy another house if I could afford one, but I got stuck
Exactly.
with one. We were talking about how it's difficult in Milwaukee to get people to do a large project, even if they are financially able to.
Right.
And I was talking about the Germanic history of people in Milwaukee, and the thought that your home in some ways is an investment. We'll have centimillionaires who will be concerned about remodeling their home and what the exit price will be when they sell it.
Right.
And I think that's been some of the frustration for our firm in building these heirloom quality spaces. And I'm really into construction science, and I want to build houses that last as long as houses in Europe have.
Right.
And getting people to realize that your home is not an investment, it's a luxury item that you live in every day and should enjoy, has been difficult, because while Whitefish Bay is a neighborhood that has seen a rapid increase, as well as Bayview, people like my parents' house in River Hills is worth the same amount that they bought it for in the 80s.
Yeah.
And to stick several $1 million into it is foreign for a lot of people, or repulsive to some degree, because they are worried about what they're going to sell it for.
Right.
How do you overcome that? Or is that just, you're able to do a small room, so that's a great way to introduce people to great style. But do you come across that at all?
I do come across that a lot, because they're very hesitant to spend another dollar on something that they've already spent a lot of money on. And the investment, like you say, doesn't pan out, but it shouldn't be an investment. It's an investment in your own enjoyment and your time in the space. I have clients on the other end of the spectrum where they don't care, and they'll spend whatever it takes to get what they want, even though there's no resale value at all with what they've done. In the Midwest, it's a bit more conservative, a little bit tighter, budget-minded people that are not as flashy and showy and competitive as they are in some of the East and West Coast projects that we work on.
You can also do something, though, that's still not flashy or showy and is still expensive. And I guess with your business, you can keep a lot of the things and go to your next home
That's right.
with the furniture.
We'd rather spend a little bit more, have a client spend something else a little bit more because it's quality and it'll last, whether it's bespoke designed by us and the client or an antique or something of quality. Has much more longevity than something bought at some of the big box stores that are so fashionable now and so easy to buy from, but they won't last. They won't last more than a year or two or three maximum.
So do you think starting with a small room or as a remodeling contractor or builder, starting with a kitchen is the way to inform these clients of what
It is actually. We've done that where a client wanted us to do an entire house. And I said, let's just start with the kitchen and the family room, see how we work well together, if we work well together, and how the project goes. And then from there, we'll tackle the whole house.
So instead of shocking someone with the price of quality, show them what it's like to live in an heirloom quality space with beautiful casework and beautiful furnishings, and then move slowly throughout the rest of the process.
The house. That works well.
What current or past designers have informed your style?
Well, like I mentioned that I worked with Bunny Williams and David Easton and Juan Pablo Molyneux. So of course they influenced me quite a bit in their styles, and they're all very different one from the other. But I've also been very influenced and admired the work of Renzo Mongiardino from Italy and Jacques Grange, very chic interiors, and Billy Baldwin from the 50s and 60s, American designer, and the work of Mr. Hadley at Parrish and Hadley.
Do you think it's really important now for designers to have a huge social media presence in their practice, or do you think that this word of mouth is more important in the Midwest? Because we've, as a business, only in the last year have started having active social media accounts to some degree, started doing these interviews. You see people like, Timothy Corrigan, who have huge followings and, have published multiple books and are constantly being interviewed. Do you think that that's where design is going and where we should be focusing our efforts?
That's a very interesting question. And the answer is complex in that, for me, word of mouth and referral has been the best formula for me because I work very personally with people and we develop relationships. But if someone wants a lot of projects and a lot of notoriety or fame, I think social media is a good way to do it. And all of the avenues open to them might create a bigger picture for them.
So we found that we always tell people in our process to come up with an idea book, whether it be on Houzz, whether it be saved on Instagram, Pinterest. So not because we care about the way that you're going to design your home, because that's not our job. The interior designers and architects will do that.
Right.
But because they always ask us for a budget.
Yeah.
And there's no price. People ask, what's the price per square foot? That's the worst question to ask a builder.
The worst question.
There's
Absolutely.
no price per square foot for anything. I mean, you can build crap or you can build something nice, and they both cost a different amount.
Right.
And you can spend as much as you want per square foot, depending on what you'd like. But we find that if people come to us with a portfolio of other people's work, we get an idea of the sense of quality that they want.
Right.
And for you, that may be important to understand stylistically what they want. But for me, their expectation of, the ornament, the level of ornament, and the level of, whether they want hand brushed cabinets versus sprayed, all of that factors into when I give people a budget number, because that's how, unfortunately, we have to start most of our relationships.
I know. The same with us. We have to start a relationship with a budget in mind. And I often ask clients, what's their budget? What do they have in mind? Most often they say there's no budget. We have no idea what that is. We need you to tell us what that is.
Well, next month they're going to have a budget, though.
Exactly. But we ask them, sometimes I'll use the analogy of a car. Do you want this to be a Chevrolet, a Cadillac, or a Rolls Royce? The guys especially get a good kick out of that because they can relate to that very quickly. It gives us the sense of where they are quality-wise and what they want. We often do an exercise where we ask the clients to go through magazines or books and photocopy or just earmark pages what they like and don't like. It's a homework assignment that we do early on to get a sense of what their taste is.
So do you help at all with the program, or is that 100% on the architect?
No, we'll help with the program as well. We'll walk them through the project and understand how they want to live, what they want to do with each space, what the space should be like, how it should flow from one room to the other if they're entertaining. Is it a house for children and grandchildren?
Post-pandemic, we've seen everyone has a golden doodle now or something like that. How have pets informed interior design, and has that changed your practice with?
It hasn't changed our practice because the clients of ours have either always had pets or not. But I've seen it change the industry quite a bit in that there's a lot more performance fabrics that typically were for outdoor use.
Yep.
Now we're seeing them for indoor and outdoor use. And we often use that in vacation homes or proximity to a beach, for example. If they're going to be living in wet bathing suits in a house in Florida on the beach, we're not going to give them silk velvets. So we do things that are appropriate for the surroundings and for how they live. And we use a lot of pet-friendly carpeting and fabrics if their pets are all over the furniture everywhere.
We have one question that we ask everyone. What's your favorite restaurant in Milwaukee?
Oh, well, that's excellent. My favorite is Lupi and Iris.
Okay, that's the first for Lupi and Iris.
It's a first for Lupi and Iris?
Yes, the winner right now so far is La Miranda.
Really?
We'll put the count up on the
That's
on the screen.
interesting. What's your favorite?
My favorite is, I don't eat carbs anymore, so it's carnivore now, but traditionally it was either morel or a duck.
I like both morel and a duck.
Yeah.
And I like the variety, but I like the quality and the consistency of Lupi and Iris.
Jose, thanks a lot for having us.
Thank you so
to your
much,
office.
Jeff.
It's been great.
Thanks so much for coming and doing this with
Thank you
us.
very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.